The birth of Archie, the son of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, should have been a moment of pure joy, marking a new chapter for the British royal family. Yet instead of celebration, it became the center of one of the strangest and most persistent controversies in modern royal history, from online rumors to global media investigations. One question has never been fully answered. Did Meghan actually carry her pregnancy, or did she use a surrogate? Many believe the way Meghan and Harry handled the press only deepened public suspicion. There were no official photos from the hospital, no appearance by the royal obstetrician, and just hours after giving birth, Meghan appeared looking impossibly flawless. These details became pieces of a larger puzzle, fueling speculation from commentators like Candace Owens and royal insiders, suggesting that something about their story didn't quite add up. Today's video will unpack every inconsistency, from the timeline of the birth, the medical records, and the couple's control over the media narrative, to Buckingham Palace's guarded response. Because behind the glamorous photos may lie a truth the couple never wanted revealed. These contradictions have not only damaged Meghan and Harry's credibility, but also raised a larger question. Can the public still trust what they see from the British monarchy? To understand it fully, we begin with the most explosive allegation, the claim that Meghan Markle used a surrogate. From the moment Meghan announced her pregnancy, public curiosity was immediate and relentless. Alongside the excitement came a flurry of doubts. Why? People asked, did the royal family maintain near total secrecy about her pregnancy, something unprecedented in royal communications? There was no official statement about the hospital, no royal doctors in attendance, and most notably, Meghan and Harry broke from tradition entirely, refusing to pose for the customary post-birth photos outside the hospital, a rite of passage for royal parents. That silence became fertile ground for speculation, giving rise to one of the boldest rumors of all, that the baby had been carried by someone else. On social media, photos and videos from Meghan's pregnancy became evidence for debate. Some claimed her bump appeared inconsistent, small one day, noticeably larger the next. One widely shared clip even showed Meghan bending down and what appeared to be her belly folding, fueling online claims that she was wearing a prosthetic bump. Though no concrete proof ever surfaced, those images alone were enough to ignite a storm of suspicion, one that spread faster than anything the royal family had ever faced in the digital age. The controversy gained momentum when American commentator Candace Owens weighed in, known for her fearlessness in challenging Hollywood and political elites. Owens called it one of the biggest royal scandals of the 21st century. She claimed Meghan and Harry had orchestrated a perfectly controlled narrative to hide a truth they couldn't face, and even compared Meghan to celebrities who had secretly used surrogates while maintaining the illusion of natural pregnancy. Owens' massive platform catapulted the story out of fringe internet circles and into global headlines, dominating discussion across the US, UK, and Europe. Public reaction quickly split into two camps. One group insisted the doubts were justified, that Meghan, who had previously been accused of staging and exaggerating stories, might have once again performed the role of a perfect mother to protect her brand. To them, the couple's refusal to share details of the birth only reinforced the sense that something was being hidden. The other camp condemned the allegations as cruel and racially motivated. Supporters argued that the fake pregnancy rumors were yet another example of the vicious scrutiny Meghan faced from the British press, a media ecosystem long accused of bias and hostility toward her as a biracial woman. Between these opposing sides, a gray zone of confusion and conspiracy began to grow. Online extremists pushed wild theories, some claiming Archie was an AI-generated child, others insisting the baby doesn't exist at all, and that every public photo had been fabricated. Absurd as they were, such theories racked up millions of views, turning a private family story into a full-blown global investigation. And while Harry and Meghan have maintained absolute silence, the analysis never stopped. Articles, videos, podcasts, and interviews continue to surface, each presenting a different piece of so-called evidence That ambiguity only deepens public confusion. Who's telling the truth? Who's spinning a story? And why haven't the couple taken the simplest path? Full transparency to put the rumors to rest. In an era when images can be manipulated and public trust is more fragile than ever, even the smallest inconsistency can spark a wildfire. And Meghan Markle, once hailed as a symbol of courage and independence, now stands at the eye of a storm built on doubt. But where did these allegations actually begin? To answer that, we have to look at the birth timeline, the point where the first cracks appeared. When Prince Harry released his memoir, Spare, readers expected a raw, honest glimpse into royal life. What they didn't expect was for the book itself to reignite old suspicions about Meghan's pregnancy. In it, Harry wrote that Meghan underwent 2 epidurals while giving birth to Archie at Portland Hospital. And just hours later, the couple returned home to Frogmore Cottage. At first, the story sounded touching, even admirable, a testament to Meghan's strength. But to medical professionals, it raised immediate red flags. Obstetric specialists explained that an epidural is a complex procedure requiring precision and extended monitoring. Administering it twice in the same delivery is extremely rare, nearly impossible without a major complication or technical issue. Moreover, women who receive epidurals typically need many hours, sometimes a full day, before regaining full mobility. For Meghan to walk out of the hospital and travel home within hours defied both medical protocol and common sense. A London obstetrician interviewed by The Telegraph stated, "Even under the most advanced medical care, a delivery involving an epidural requires at least 24 to 48 hours of observation. If Meghan truly left within a few hours, that would be highly unusual." Others pointed out that if the birth took place in the early morning, as described, an immediate drive from Portland Hospital to Frogmore Cottage, roughly 40 miles apart, would have been implausible both medically and logistically. Royal watchers began asking another question. Why were there no photos or verified sightings of the royal convoy leaving the hospital when nearly every movement of the monarchy is normally tracked by the press? The absence of images only fueled speculation that something was being concealed. Reporters who were on duty that night claimed there were no signs of heightened security or restricted access around the hospital during the hours Harry described. His version of events in Spare simply didn't align with what anyone saw on the ground. What confused the public even more was Harry himself, the self-proclaimed truth-teller, recounting a story riddled with inconsistencies. Some media analysts suggested he may have misstated details unintentionally or exaggerated them deliberately to portray Meghan as remarkably resilient. Either way, the damage was done. The inconsistencies gave skeptics more ammunition. Online debate exploded. One side insisted the inconsistencies proved the entire birth narrative had been staged, possibly to cover up a surrogate arrangement. The other side argued that people were being overly harsh, that a memoir isn't a medical record, and Harry's version might simply reflect faulty memory. But those defenses failed to extinguish the speculation, especially as every new detail seemed to contradict basic medical reasoning and simple logic. And the biggest question still hangs in the air. If Meghan truly delivered at Portland Hospital, why didn't the royal family release medical confirmation, or at least identify the attending physician, as they did with each of Kate Middleton's births? Instead, everything remained cloaked in silence. Even when Harry described the serene image of father and son leaving the hospital at dawn, the world noticed one glaring fact. Not a single photo, not one verified witness, has ever confirmed that moment took place. And from that very vacuum of information, conspiracy theories erupted with greater virulence than ever before. Some claim Spare wasn't written accidentally the way it was, but rather served, consciously or not, as Harry's attempt to repaint the story, aligning it with what they wanted the public to believe. Yet the more he tried to explain, the more inconsistencies surfaced, from the timing of the birth, to the epidural details, to the supposed hospital departure. When examined objectively, the timeline Harry described wasn't just medically implausible, it was logistically impossible given royal security and protocol. And once public trust cracks, even the smallest inconsistency becomes ammunition for doubt. But the strange birth timeline was only part of the puzzle. The way the couple handled the press raised even more questions. In the history of the British monarchy, the announcement of a royal birth has always followed tradition. From Princess Diana to Kate Middleton, each new royal arrival was marked by ceremony, an official statement to the press, followed by the iconic image of the mother stepping out of the hospital, baby in arms, smiling before hundreds of flashing cameras. But when it came to Meghan Markle, everything changed. No photos, no timestamps, no royal doctors confirming the birth. Instead, a single delayed statement issued from the couple's office, simply declaring that Meghan had safely delivered a baby boy. It was in that moment the British media realized they were dealing with a new kind of royalty, private, defiant, and deeply contradictory. The Sussexes' decision to withhold all details was seen as unprecedented. Traditionally, Buckingham Palace notifies the press the moment a royal mother goes into labor. This time, it didn't happen. Reporters who had camped outside Portland Hospital for days felt deceived. By the time the official announcement came, Archie had already been born for more than 8 hours. And no one, Bob, not even the accredited royal correspondents, had been given a chance to confirm it. Meghan later offered 3 different explanations for this secrecy, but each one only made things worse. At first, she said they wanted to protect their child's privacy, to keep Archie from becoming tabloid prey as William and Kate's children had been. Later, she told another interviewer that the secrecy was due to complications during labor, and that she needed more time to recover before appearing publicly. Then, in a third interview, the story shifted again. We simply wanted to do things our own way, differently from royal tradition. 3 explanations, 3 versions of the same story, left royal reporters baffled. Royal correspondent Richard Palmer wrote in the Daily Express, "If everything was as straightforward as they claim, why keep changing the reason?" Meghan can't seem to stick to a single version of her own story. Meanwhile, the Times criticized the couple for having turned what should have been a joyful royal occasion into an oddly secretive spectacle. That lack of clarity created the perfect breeding ground for speculation. Some believe the secrecy was a deliberate effort to hide the use of a surrogate. Others thought the couple wanted complete control over the narrative, refusing to let the palace or the press define their image. Whatever the motive, the result was the same. Public trust evaporated. The inconsistency became even more glaring when compared to Kate Middleton, who, following tradition, appeared before the press just hours after giving birth, smiling and composed. Meghan's refusal to do the same was seen by many as a direct challenge to royal convention. Some commentators called it the opening shot in the image war between Meghan, who sought to control her own publicity, and the British media establishment that had worked hand in hand with the monarchy for generations. Online, the public was split down the middle. Supporters praised Meghan for protecting her family's privacy. Critics saw arrogance, arguing that she had entered an institution where every action carries national symbolism. She's not an actress in Hollywood anymore. One Telegraph comment read, "She's the Duchess of the United Kingdom, and in that role, transparency isn't optional." The controversy deepened when reports emerged that Meghan herself had reached out to select friendly journalists to manage the story. Several articles appeared almost simultaneously, echoing the same phrasing and details, a clear sign of coordinated messaging. For many in the media, it was proof that the Sussexes weren't just keeping secrets. They were actively manipulating how their story was told. And as the details grew murkier, public trust continued to erode. What should have been a proud royal moment turned into a storm of speculation, filled with unanswered questions. Where exactly did Meghan give birth? When? And why were they so afraid of revealing the truth? The confusion didn't stop with the press. Let's take a closer look at what hospital staff themselves have revealed. When Prince Harry's memoir Spare was released, many in Britain believed the details about Meghan's delivery would finally put rumors to rest. But the opposite happened. The book reignited suspicion, especially after several anonymous staff members from Portland Hospital, The very place Harry claimed Meghan delivered Archie came forward to dispute parts of his story. According to Harry, the couple entered the hospital through a private entrance, used a secret elevator to avoid photographers, and stayed in a suite where a private chef served gourmet meals amid candles and soft music. It sounded like a romantic royal fairy tale, a devoted husband shielding his wife from the world. But those small, cinematic details were exactly what raised eyebrows. A retired nurse who had worked at Portland at the time told a British outlet, "There is no secret elevator in this hospital." She explained that the building follows strict medical design standards. All patients, including high-profile ones, use the same secured corridors. Another staff member added, "The hospital menu is standardized. No one has a private chef or custom dining service." Those statements spread quickly across forums and social media. Journalists began cross-checking every detail from Harry's book with the hospital's actual layout. The Daily Mail even published a building diagram showing there was no such private elevator. The Times ran the headline, "If even the simplest details don't hold up, can any part of the story be trusted?" Media analysts argued that Harry's overly polished, almost cinematic storytelling style made the entire account feel staged. One literary critic put it bluntly, "This isn't testimony, it's a Hollywood script. Every scene is designed for emotion, but when you compare it with reality, it collapses." Many concluded that Harry and Meghan had tried to turn an ordinary birth into a royal drama, reinforcing their image as the brave, romantic couple defying tradition. But when actual hospital employees insisted that none of those things ever happened, the public started asking if they invented a secret elevator. How many other details were embellished to fit their narrative? A commentator on Sky News posed a pointed question. Was the entire birth story crafted to divert attention from the larger rumor that Meghan used a surrogate? That question quickly spread, sparking a new wave of online debate. Some argued that Harry's vivid, intimate descriptions were a deliberate attempt to cement Meghan's image as Archie's biological mother. But once those details were debunked, the backlash was even worse. People felt deceived. The growing gap between Harry's account and the hospital's statements dealt a serious blow to the couple's credibility. British media dubbed it the Phantom of Portland, a story no one could verify, yet no one could disprove either. Even some of Meghan's former defenders went silent. They admitted that if Harry had truly wanted to share a personal story, there was no need to embellish it with invented details. What was meant to be a memoir restoring their image had backfired. Spare had instead become proof that Harry and Meghan were losing control of their own narrative. The public no longer saw them as victims of media intrusion, but as storytellers willing to rewrite reality for personal gain. And that was the breaking point, when every detail about the birth became suspect. People began wondering if anything in their story was real. Those inconsistencies became ammunition for Candace Owens, who turned them into the foundation of her own global crusade. Candace Owens, a name well known in American media, was the one who took the surrogate rumors from online whispers to a full-blown international controversy. Known for her sharp and confrontational style, Owens appeared on live television and said bluntly, "If Meghan really gave birth to Archie, prove it. A DNA test would end this debate in a second." Her words hit like a spark to gunpowder, and within hours, the media exploded. Before Candace spoke up, the surrogacy theory had mostly circulated on niche forums, debated by skeptics without evidence. Mainstream outlets avoided it for ethical reasons. But Candace Owens shattered that barrier. She brought the question to national TV, and in her firm, unapologetic tone, asked what millions had been thinking but were afraid to say. How can a couple who constantly preach about truth and transparency keep something as basic as a birth story so secret? Candace didn't stop at words. She dissected every line of Spare, every inconsistency in Meghan's interviews, exposing what she described as a calculated pattern of media manipulation. In a nearly hour-long podcast, Owens compared Meghan's pregnancy photos to those accused of being digitally altered and invited media experts to weigh in. To her supporters, it was an act of courage, finally saying out loud what both the British and American press have been too afraid to touch. The impact was undeniable. Within days, Clips from her show went viral, racking up millions of views on X and YouTube. Major outlets, The Sun, New York Post, Daily Mail, ran her quotes as front-page headlines. Keywords like Meghan Markle surrogate rumor and Candace Owens DNA demand shot to the top of global search trends. To the public, she wasn't just a commentator anymore. She was the woman who dared to challenge the narrative Harry and Meghan had controlled for years. But the backlash was just as fierce. Critics accused Owens of crossing a moral line, turning a private matter into a weapon of attack. Commentators argued she was playing politics with someone's personal life, and that demanding a DNA test was degrading and cruel. The Guardian ran an op-ed titled "Candace Owens and the Limits of Truth: When a Question Becomes a Weapon." Others went further, claiming her rhetoric carried racial undertones, that publicly questioning a biracial woman in the royal family risked reinforcing ugly stereotypes. Owens, however, seemed unfazed. In another broadcast, she declared, "I don't care who Meghan is. I care about the truth. If you claim to be a victim of the media, then you should be as transparent as anyone else." That statement once again split public opinion. Some hailed her as fearless and incisive. Others condemned her for personal hostility disguised as journalism. What came next was telling. After Owens spoke out, more media figures began weighing in. Some agreed that the details in Harry's memoir simply don't add up. Others countered that Owens was sensationalizing the issue for clicks. Regardless of which side they took, everyone acknowledged one thing. Candace Owens had succeeded in moving the surrogacy question from fringe rumor to mainstream debate. From that point, Meghan Markle's image became more polarized than ever. To her supporters, it was a modern witch hunt, every flaw magnified, every misstep weaponized. To her detractors, Meghan and Harry looked like a couple hiding something, and Candace was merely the one bold enough to say it out loud. Amid all the noise, one question lingered in the air. If nothing was wrong, why were there so many contradictions? After months of inconsistencies, from timelines and hospital accounts to their handling of the press, the public began asking a bigger question. Why? Why would a couple who constantly preached truth and authenticity leave so many blanks in their own story? Was it all accidental or part of a carefully managed strategy? The first theory, shared by many media analysts, is control. Throughout her time in the royal family, Meghan often complained that her image was distorted, that she was cast as the villain by tabloids. So when she and Harry stepped back, reclaiming control of the narrative may have become their top priority. Through documentaries, podcasts, and Harry's memoir, they rewrote the story in their own voice, positioning themselves not as victims, but as the storytellers. In modern media, whoever controls the story defines the truth. And Meghan, a former Hollywood actress, understood that better than anyone. But control can easily blur into revision. Some details might be softened, timelines rearranged, so everything fits a more cinematic arc. Meghan's birth story, in that light, may have been retold as a symbol, the portrait of a strong woman defying tradition, overcoming bias, and embracing motherhood on her own terms. In a culture that celebrates the independent mother archetype, that framing didn't just invite empathy, it reinforced her personal brand, self-made, compassionate, and resilient under royal pressure. A second theory sees this as strategic empathy, a media tool Meghan has mastered. Since stepping into the spotlight, she's tied her identity to causes like racial equality and women's empowerment. The idea of a private, challenging childbirth, of suffering quietly under toxic press pressure, evokes instant sympathy. Even if told only in words, it paints Meghan as a woman fighting for her peace and her family's happiness. And in entertainment, emotion is currency. The third theory, far more sensitive, suggests Meghan and Harry may have been hiding something related to the royal family itself. Some royal correspondents believe the inconsistencies weren't random but deliberate, a smokescreen to divert attention from details both sides preferred to keep buried. Perhaps medical reasons, private agreements, or media arrangements that neither the palace nor the Sussexes wanted exposed. If that's true, Meghan's version of the story may have served as the perfect cover, redirecting the public's focus toward feelings, not facts. Several analysts call this the reverse brand effect, when a public figure turns their own contradictions into a form of media leverage. By letting the world argue, Meghan and Harry remain at the center of conversation. Every headline mentioning their names keeps Netflix, Spotify, and Archewell in circulation. And in the business of fame, that's power. Yet regardless of motive, whether to control the image, evoke sympathy, or conceal the truth, the outcome is the same. Public trust has fractured. When the little details don't line up, people start asking what's real and what's performance. And when doubt replaces belief, the once admired image of a truth-telling couple challenging the monarchy begins to look more like two master manipulators using emotion as their script. Maybe Meghan and Harry never meant to lie. Maybe they were simply telling their story the way they wanted it to be remembered. But in the digital age, where every word is recorded and every detail can be dissected, telling your own version can backfire. The more you shape the narrative, the more truth begins to erode, until even the most beautiful image starts to look fragile. Nearly 6 years after leaving the royal family, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are no longer the symbols of courage they once seemed to be. Once praised as the couple who broke free from royal chains, they've now become the center of public doubt. The endless contradictions, from the inconsistencies in Spare to disputed hospital accounts, to their erratic handling of the media, have shattered the one thing that mattered most, public trust. At first, the world was on their side. When Meghan spoke of the pressures, isolation, and racism she faced within the monarchy, millions sympathized. The image of a modern American woman standing up to a centuries-old institution made her a heroine of the new era. But once they began telling their truth through documentaries, podcasts, and memoirs, everything changed. Every inconsistency, every altered explanation became another crack in the foundation of credibility they had built. In the world of media, the public can forgive mistakes, but never deception. As details about Meghan's childbirth grew more suspicious, from the secret elevator to 2 epidurals, to the implausible hospital exit, people began to wonder, did it really happen the way they said? And when Candace Owens brought the question to national television, the rumors left the shadows of online forums and became a global talking point. The press, once eager to defend them as voices of freedom, began to turn away. The Guardian, which once championed Meghan, wrote, "The more they retell their story, the less authentic it becomes." The Daily Mail and the Times labeled it a crisis of self-inflicted credibility. Even veteran royal correspondents remarked that Meghan had become trapped in her own narrative, because every time she tried to explain, she only created new contradictions. It wasn't just the media pulling back. Their business partners began to retreat too. Spotify ended its multi-million-dollar podcast deal after one season. Netflix quietly shelved upcoming projects. Analysts said the couple had lost their emotional value, the empathy that once kept audiences invested. When trust is replaced by skepticism, even genuine words are heard through doubt. For the public, the shift was clear, from compassion to fatigue to indifference. One Telegraph reader summed it up: "No one knows what's real anymore. Every time they speak, it feels like another episode." That sentiment captured the mood perfectly. Meghan and Harry had lost their power to persuade. They talked endlessly, appeared everywhere, but no one believed them anymore. The irony is that they left the monarchy promising to live their truth, yet the harder they tried to prove that truth, the more people questioned it. In today's media landscape, where every fact can be verified, each inconsistency becomes a crack in the image. And when enough cracks appear, what collapses isn't just reputation, it's credibility itself. The damage went beyond their public standing. It reshaped how audiences viewed their future work. Every film, book, or interview they release now faces microscopic scrutiny. Every facial expression, every pause, even silence itself is interpreted as manipulation. One British media analyst put it plainly: they have entered the most dangerous zone in image culture, where audiences no longer care what you say, only where you're lying. Trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to restore. For Meghan and Harry, this isn't a temporary scandal. It's a scar that could define their entire public life. What began as a story about love and liberation has turned into a symbol of doubt and division. And when people stop believing you, storytelling becomes meaningless. The controversies around Meghan's alleged childbirth are often seen as the peak of public distrust, but in truth, they're only the tip of a much larger iceberg, one called dishonesty. As skepticism spread, people began to revisit her past narratives and found that these contradictions weren't new. From her fractured relationship with her father, Thomas Markle, to misleading statements in her lawsuit against the press, a familiar pattern emerged. Whenever faced with crisis, Meghan sought control by rewriting the story, and somewhere along the way, the truth got bent. One of the most infamous examples was the father scandal. Before her 2018 royal wedding, Meghan accused her father of betraying her by staging paparazzi photos for British tabloids. That story was repeated across interviews, documentaries, and public speeches, framing her as a victim of toxic media. But later evidence revealed a far more complicated reality. During her court battle with the Mail on Sunday, Meghan was forced to admit she had provided misleading information to her communications team and had forgotten that she herself approved certain leaked details. Released emails showed that Meghan had guided how her story should be reported, even editing portions of her letters to her father to heighten the emotional impact of betrayal. Legal experts commented, had she not been compelled to submit evidence, that truth might have stayed buried. From that moment, the media began asking, were the contradictions around the birth just coincidence or part of a consistent pattern? When connecting the dots from the letter to her father, to the racism narrative, to the Portland hospital mystery, a theme emerges. Meghan is always at the center, always the narrator, always in control of how she is seen. And it doesn't end with family matters. Other cracks in her narrative have resurfaced too. In her high-profile interview with Oprah Winfrey, Meghan claimed she hadn't looked up the royal family and didn't understand royal protocol before marrying Harry. Yet former friends later revealed she had studied the monarchy extensively, even watching multiple Diana interviews to learn how to behave. She also said that she and Harry became completely financially independent after leaving the palace. But financial records later showed they continued receiving support from Prince Charles's fund for several months. ChatGPT deny those seemingly minor details, once pieced together, form a continuous chain of suspicion, a quiet undercurrent that has run through every stage of the public's observation of Meghan. Each new controversy is no longer viewed in isolation, but as another fragment of a larger pattern. A woman who keeps retelling her story, and with every retelling, the truth shifts just a little more. Western media now call this the Meghan cycle, a repeating loop of crisis and self-justification. When criticized, she speaks out. When her defense sparks backlash, she rewrites the narrative again, and the cycle never ends. Royal commentator Richard Eden once remarked, "The issue isn't that Meghan lies, it's that she can't stop editing herself. Every time she tells her story, she wants it to be more moving, more cinematic, and that's when the truth disappears." From lawsuits and family scandals to the birth controversy, each event connects like links in a chain, steadily eroding Meghan's credibility in the public eye. To many, this is no longer the private drama of a celebrity couple, but a case study in how a media personality can rewrite reality to maintain a personal brand. And when truth becomes a tool, public trust becomes more fragile than ever. The story of Meghan Markle then goes beyond any single rumor or accusation. It has become a phenomenon, one that defines an era where image often outweighs truth. And at the center of it all remains an unanswered question. Is Meghan retelling her life story? or creating a new one for the world to believe. The contradictions surrounding Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are not just the tale of a famous couple, they reflect something deeper about how society perceives truth, power, and transparency in the media age. From the birth mystery and spare to her legal battle with her father, Thomas Markle, every piece contributes to a complex puzzle, one that forces us to ask, is the British royal family as transparent as it claims to be? But this story is far from over. Behind the spotlight and carefully crafted narratives, more secrets remain untold, including the so-called age scandal connected to Meghan's father, and other hidden threads that could reshape everything we think we know. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video if you want to follow us further into this ongoing investigation beneath the royal sheen. Because only by staying curious and questioning everything can we ever get closer to the real answer. Will the truth ever be revealed? Or will we remain forever caught in this web of contradictions? Contradictions. 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 Contradictions.